Hi, Kiaha. It's really hot in this room. So I've got syrup. And if you listen, you're going to find out why I have syrup. I don't even like syrup, but I like syrup in this story. So this is the midweek devotion. Many of us are meeting back together again, but some of us cannot. And so we just want to provide a time for all of us to keep in touch and to just be inspired by God. So, we're going to be talking about something in the country of Iran, or Iran. I may interchange that. And this is Middle East. And you see Israel is over here. And you see Iraq and Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan. And we're going to be talking about the country of Iran. That is notoriously famous for persecution of Christians. I am going to get this from the Persecution magazine, which we pass out about once a month. It's put out by International Christian Concern, and the president of that right now is a man named Jeff King, and he wrote this article. So I'm just going to read to you, even though it's really hot in here. Bear with me. Okay. It seems like only bad news flows out of the Middle East, doesn't it? For the last 40 years, the headlines have been dominated by wars, revolutions, and ISIS. But this raging river of bad news often obscures the amazing movements of God, the explosion of the gospel over the same period of 40 years. If you don't follow the persecuted church in Iran, your understanding of the country probably revolves around the Islamic Revolution of 1979. I remember that. That's when I graduated from college. And the Ayatollah Khomeini. The spiritual story of Iran is amazing, and the church there has been growing for 4 decades at an incredible rate. Iranian evangelists are extremely bold, especially considering the high cost of spreading the gospel in their country. Iran targets Muslim converts and evangelists. If caught, these Christians typically end up in Iran's notorious Evin prison, also known as the Terror Factory. The Islamic government can never arrest and torture enough new converts or evangelists to shut down the church. Even if they arrested all of the evangelizing Christians, there would still be a river of new converts every year. Why? Because for the last 30 years, millions of Muslims have come to Christ after receiving dreams and visions of Jesus. They have also come to Christ after watching Christian content beamed in from satellite TV. When Muslims come to Christ, they are thrilled to have found the truth. Threats of imprisonment or torture cannot stop them from spreading the good news. God is truly doing something special in Iran and in the Middle East. Now, this is Jeff King is continuing to speak here. Early on in my work with ICC, I met an Iranian believer who told me a story that summarized the great move of God in Iran. He attended an evangelism seminar for Iranians taught by Westerners, that would be us. It focused on various methods to attract a disinterested audience to the gospel. Wow, do I relate to that? During one of these seminars, this believer stood up and explained that the audience was different in Iran. He explained, these methods all seem good to me, but we do things differently in Iran. I go to a party and announce that I'm a Christian, and anybody that wants to talk about Jesus should come visit me during the party. He laughed as he told me that he'd be trapped in a corner for the next 4 hours with people asking him questions about Jesus and how to become a Christian. The testimonies of these converts, as well as those of other Iranian evangelists, are always a source of great encouragement to me, so let me share some with you. Zahra's testimony touches on both the vision aspect and the party sharing dynamic I mentioned. So this next part is Zahra's testimony, a Muslim, now Christian. 2 months ago, I saw that a few people were going inside an apartment which is located across the hall, the same floor I live. And then I heard them singing. I went in and put my ear on the door and heard them talking about Jesus Christ. I knocked on the door, and as it was opened, I saw the group, and I saw an angel sitting on the couch. He smiled at me and said, "Come in." I went inside, and the group welcomed me warmly. I cried. I listened to the songs and the passages they read from the Bible. I was given some papers, which were copies from the book of John, and then I heard the angel tell me, "This is your only chance. Do you want to go after the living Jesus or the dead prophets?" And I said loudly, "After the living Jesus." Without knowing the group from before, and without having ever read the Bible, I gave my heart to Christ that night. Now I'm going back to Jeff's words. Reading this testimony gives you a sense of the futility of the efforts of the secret police in Iran. Their main weapon, fear, will only work on some. The church is similar to a bottle of syrup. Yes. Authorities try to grasp the bottle and take it off the table of the culture. In the end, though, they merely knock it over in their attempt to remove it. When knocked over, the sweetness of the bottle's contents spread everywhere. The masses then taste it and spread the word far and wide that there is food and their spiritual starvation can end. In the West, that's where we are, we take so much for granted. I'm not pointing fingers. I face the same predicament. We have religious freedom and we live in relative ease. Yet, we take these things for granted. As a church, we are asleep in the light. Zara went on in her letter to touch on just this point. And these are the words of Zara. Too many of those people who are born in the free countries, freedom has lost its deep meaning. When they open their eyes in the morning, they do whatever they want, and they take their freedom for granted. I am an underground Christian now. I suffer different pains for my faith, but rejoice in Christ. I cannot mention his name without tears in my eyes. And then Jeff closes with this. I've never stopped feeling convicted by my brothers and sisters facing persecution. They speak truth to me and make me face my own weakness and apathy. We desperately need the persecuted. I think that speaks for itself. And so in the midst of everything that's going on in the world, we just take a few minutes to remember that there's another type of suffering. It's not to disqualify what's going on here. It's a suffering regarding believing in Jesus. And we haven't really felt that at this point. So I hope these words just encourage you to stand firm in the faith and to be thankful, and that your eyes are opened, enlightened by your brothers and sisters in Christ in persecuted countries. It's also exciting just to see and hear that amazing things are happening in places I was not aware of. So there is hope. We'll be praying for you guys. We are praying for you guys. If you need anything, let one of us know. Love you. Aloha.